Chapter 5064. Bewitching chuckled but did not say anything else. Immediately, together with Bailey Hongzhuang and the others, they took the place of the heavily injured cultivators on the periphery. Who would have thought that these geniuses of the major powers would actually fall to such a state? It really made one sigh with sorrow. Bewitching suddenly thought of a plan and said, "Wife, you guys hold them off first. I'll set up a defensive formation and see if it's effective." This formation was something he obtained from the historical remains. In fact, he had been studying formations all this time. Because according to what he understood from the historical remains, this formation could also play a big role. As long as it was used properly, it could often bring about unexpected surprises. Although he usually studied it seriously, he had never really used it. Now, it could be said that he was forced into a corner with no way out. Hence, no matter what method he used, he had to give it a try. Bailey Hongzhuang's phoenix eyes flashed with a trace of light as she nodded and said, "Okay." When Di Xiaofeng and the others heard that Bewitching had actually decided to set up a formation, they were also astonished. When did Bewitching become a formation master? Why didn't I know about it? Di Xiaofeng had a doubtful expression. He only knew that Bailey Hongzhuang had multiple identities, but he did not know that his own brother actually had other identities as well. This was really hidden deeply. Bewitching actually became a formation master not long ago, Bailey Hongzhuang said with a faint smile. Chen Feng was also somewhat astonished. However, when he found out that Bewitching was not a senior formation master, he couldn't help but frown. The attack power of these demonic beasts is extremely strong. If the formation is not strong enough, it will be extremely difficult to resist them. We don't have time to think so much now. No matter what, we have to give it a try. In any case, if we don't give it a try, we're just waiting for death here. Murong Jing spread out his hands. In any case, he had already seen through it. At worst, he would just die. However, before he died, he still held on to the thought of holding on for as long as he could. Chen Feng sighed and nodded. "You are right. That is indeed the case." After Bewitching decided to set up a defensive formation, he didn't hesitate and immediately started to prepare. He had also set up several formations during his daily self-study, but he did not have an accurate understanding of their effects. According to his judgment, the effect of this formation should be quite good. After all, his master's array formation skills were very impressive. Even if he only learned a little, the effect wouldn't be bad. When Nangong Yuqing and the others saw that Bewitching didn't resist the demonic beasts and instead started to arrange a formation, they were stunned for a moment before rolling their eyes. Nangong Yuqing raised his eyebrows and said, "Could it be that this guy is afraid of death, so he found an excuse to set up a formation? That can't be helped. No one can be so indifferent in the face of death." Jun Lingxuan sighed. He was so exhausted that even moving was difficult for him. Now, he could only resign himself to fate. Why do you think these demonic beasts seem to have gone crazy? Nangong Yuqing couldn't help but curse. Even if we had to rest for a day, it would be good enough for us to recover. As long as they had time to recover, they wouldn't be afraid of fighting to the end. However, they didn't have any time at all. As time passed, the situation became worse and worse. Chapter 5065. Jun Lingxuan suddenly felt that the heavens were trying to help them by not allowing their family to obtain a single spot. However, they didn't realize this and insisted on entering, resulting in their current situation. Chu Yingming glanced at the two of them in annoyance and said, "If you two have the time to talk about this, why don't you take the time to cultivate and recover your yuan qi? Is there any point in recovering now?" Nangong Yuqing frowned. "Why don't you take a look at our current situation? Even if we recover some of our yuan qi, we're still going to die. Do whatever you want." Chu Yingming was too lazy to pay attention to them. Being negative is your problem. In any case, I won't just sit here and wait for death. Chu Yingming's dark eyes flickered with determination and unwillingness. He didn't believe that he would die in this place. Even if there was only a glimmer of hope, he wouldn't give up. Everyone watched as Bewitching busied himself and couldn't help but feel curious. Array masters are actually quite powerful, but the inheritance of an array master is very rare and the array masters rarely accept disciples. Logically speaking, Bewitching shouldn't have had the opportunity to come into contact with an array master, so how did he learn it? Who knows? Look at Bailey Hongzhuang. She also didn't have the opportunity to come into contact with a doctor or an alchemist, but didn't she also learn it? Moreover, she's very outstanding. That's true. I feel that these people are quite powerful and can't be judged by common sense. I hope that Bewitching's array will be useful. Bewitching took out an array flag and his hand gestures constantly changed. His yuan qi surged, gradually forming an array. Everyone only saw a flash of light, but they didn't know what was going on. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were crazily fighting outside. After attacking for a long time, they viewed the demonic beasts as their mortal enemies. Thus, their eyes were bloodshot and they couldn't wait to slaughter these demonic beasts. However, just as they were about to continue attacking, a light suddenly flashed and the attacks of the demonic beasts landed on an invisible barrier. When they discovered this, everyone was first surprised, then their faces lit up with joy. Looks like Bewitching's defensive formation has succeeded. Bailey Hongzhuang's delicate and beautiful face was filled with an excited smile, her eyes blooming with surprise as she quickly looked behind her. Bewitching quickly walked over and stood beside Bailey Hongzhuang. How's the defensive formation? Hearing this, everyone paid close attention to the situation outside. The demonic beasts were constantly struggling to charge in, but the layer of defensive formation that was invisible to the naked eye was firmly keeping them outside. Bewitching, I didn't expect the defensive formation you set up to be so strong. It can even withstand the attacks of these demonic beasts. I'm afraid the level of this array formation is not low, right? Di Xiaofeng reached out and patted Bewitching's shoulder. His handsome face was filled with joy. This was really a glimmer of hope. Originally, they were prepared to die, but in the end, they still had a chance to breathe. Even though they didn't know how long this array could last, it wasn't easy for them to rest for a while. Bewitching faintly smiled. Actually, I haven't been studying arrays for long. There's still room for improvement. As for the level of the array he set up, he wasn't too sure. Chapter 5066. Bewitching, this formation of yours has played a huge role. Murongjing was overjoyed as well. Finally, he saw a glimmer of hope in the midst of despair. If this formation could withstand the attacks for a longer period of time, they would be able to take the opportunity to recover from their injuries and gain a breather. If this continued, it would not be impossible for them to exhaust all these demonic beasts to death. Chen Feng exclaimed in admiration as he asked, "Brother Di, how long can this formation of yours last?" Bewitching glanced at the situation outside and saw that under the attacks of the demonic beasts, ripples were gradually appearing on the formation. "I am unable to determine for now. However, we can extend the time by replenishing the formation with origin energy." Bewitching's eyes rippled with contemplation. Although he had used his formation before, he had never encountered such a ferocious attack. Hence, he was unable to determine the strength of the formation. Chen Feng's eyes shone as he hurriedly asked, "We can replenish the formation with origin energy?" Bewitching nodded slightly. "That's right. That's great. Why don't we let the heavily injured cultivators replenish their origin energy while we rest at the side? If we can't hold on, we can at least hold on for a while longer." Hearing Chen Feng's suggestion, everyone nodded their heads in agreement. Based on the current situation, this was indeed the best method. As long as there was still a glimmer of hope, naturally, no one would be willing to sit and wait for death. When the cultivators inside noticed that Bewitching and the rest had actually returned, they could not help but be dumbfounded. "Why have you all returned? What about the outside?" Jun Lingxuan hurriedly asked. Bewitching's formation has taken effect. It is now able to withstand those attacks. As Chen Feng's words left his mouth, all the cultivators blanked. Uncontrollably, a pleasantly surprised expression appeared on their faces. "Is that true? That formation can withstand the attacks of these demonic beasts?" Shock appeared in Xiu Baixin's eyes. Although they had seen Bewitching using the formation previously, none of them had taken it seriously. Unexpectedly, Bewitching had actually given them such a huge surprise. "For the time being, I can resist it." Chen Feng nodded. This formation has finally given us a chance to take a breather. Hence, I have decided to let the cultivators who have lost their combat power be responsible for replenishing their elemental energy, while the cultivators who still have combat power are responsible for recovering their elemental energy. No matter what, we have to hold on until the last moment. No problem. Everyone looked at Bewitching. Young Master D, where should we inject our elemental energy? Let me teach you. Jun Lingshuan and the others looked at each other. They didn't expect Bewitching to be so capable. However, this was also good news for them. They might really be able to survive. Xiao Soa looked at Bewitching in a daze. Because of Bewitching's cruelty to her, her heart was also filled with resentment. However, when she saw the radiant appearance of Bewitching, her mood became extremely complicated. One couldn't help but admit that the gap between the performance of Jun Lingshuan and Bewitching was truly huge. One could even say that the current Bewitching was an existence akin to a savior. That was because he had once again brought hope to the despairing crowd. At the same time, Bewitching had already started cultivating to recover. Bailey Hongzhuang sat beside him and started cultivating as well. Chapter 5067. I didn't expect Bewitching's array to be so powerful. It can even withstand the attacks of these beasts. If we had known, we wouldn't have ended up in such a situation. I heard that this is Bewitching's first time using such an array. He must have overlooked this point. I have to say, in terms of survival ability, none of us are their match. As one of the cultivators spoke, the crowd fell silent. If someone had said this before, everyone would have refuted immediately. However, after experiencing these hellish days, no one had the strength to refute. This was because Bewitching and the others were indeed in a much better state than them. From the beginning to the end, they had never seen Bewitching and the others despair. On the contrary, they were always filled with hope. Just like how Bailey Hongzhuang didn't care about everyone's gazes even though she had never sung before. Just like how Bewitching didn't have any scruples when he used the array for the first time. If it had been them, it would have been very difficult for them to do so. When the cultivators of the D family heard the crowd praising their young master and young madam, they felt a wave of pride in their hearts. This was their young master and young madam. They had completely crushed the leaders of the other forces. Jun Lingshuan and Xiao Soa had always wanted to deal with their young master and young madam, but now it seemed that they couldn't compare at all. Hearing the crowd's praises, they only felt proud. If they could return this time, their young master's reputation would definitely soar. Bailey Hongzhuang, who was cultivating, suddenly noticed that Baisher's aura was a little unstable. She couldn't help but open her eyes and ask with concern, "Baisher, what's wrong?" "Master, I'm on the verge of a breakthrough," Baisher said in a low voice. During this period of time, he had been hoping to break through to the nebula realm and transform into a human form. However, although he felt the barrier to the nebula realm, he was still a step away from breaking through. He didn't expect that during the process of hunting beasts, with the continuous influx of pure origin energy into his body, he could actually break through. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes flashed with surprise. "That's great." Xiao He, Xiao Bai, and Xiao Xuanzi's eyes also flickered with excitement. In that case, White Lion can finally transform into a human. They had been looking forward to seeing White Lion in human form. After waiting for so long, they finally got the chance. After a brief moment of joy, Bailey Hongzhuang's expression became slightly heavy. "This situation is not suitable for you to break through." According to what she knew, it would take a long time for the White Lion to transform into human form. During this process, he needed a stable environment where no one would disturb him. On the contrary, the environment they were in couldn't be worse. Baisher nodded. "That's right. I'll let you enter the contract space. You can break through in peace there." Contracted beasts had their own contracted space, and this space was not restricted even in the immortal cloud's secret realm. However, only contracted beasts could enter this space. Others couldn't. Although Xiao He and Xiao Bai were her contracted beasts, their situation was a little strange. Since the beginning of the contract, they didn't have a space that belonged to them. "But Master, the situation is so critical now." Chapter 5068. Seeing Baisher's depressed look, Bailey Hongzhuang reached out and rubbed its soft fur. Don't worry. Leave this to us. Nothing will happen. The previous situation was indeed very dangerous. Baisher's combat power was also very strong and could be of great help to them. However, now that they had this defensive array, they would be safe for a short period of time. The opportunity to break through was not always available, especially for demonic beasts. Breaking through to the nebula realm was a hurdle. If they did not break through now, it would be even more difficult to break through next time. She did not want Baisher to miss this opportunity. Baisher, don't worry about this place. Leave it to us. Nothing will happen, Xiaohei said. That's right. Don't you believe in our strength? Xiaobai said. Don't worry. By the time you come out, all these demonic beasts will have been dealt with by us. Xiao Xuanzi patted his chest confidently. Master. Baisher was still a little hesitant, but Bailey Hongzhuang rejected him without hesitation. Don't think so much. Go quickly. If you continue like this, we will be anxious. In the next moment, Bailey Hongzhuang did not wait for Baisher to speak and directly put him into the contract space. Time gradually passed. As the crowd continued to inject their essence force into the defensive array, the array continued to persevere and showed no signs of breaking. Everyone could not help but feel happy when they saw this scene. They finally saw hope. The situation gradually stabilized. Even when Bailey Hongzhuang and the others completely recovered, the defensive array was still holding. Seeing Bewitching exit his cultivation state, everyone's faces revealed flattering smiles. Bewitching, I didn't expect your array to be so effective. It's all thanks to you this time. That's right. In short, I will remember this kindness. Everyone spoke one after another. They had thought that they would definitely die this time, but now they had a chance to escape. The joy in their hearts could not be concealed. Everyone, don't be so polite. I was also trying to save myself. Feeling everyone's enthusiasm, a smile appeared on Bewitching's face. Beichen, in this situation, can we still go out and hunt demonic beasts? Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows slightly. Just now when she was cultivating, she had successfully broken through again. Originally, if she wanted to break through again, it would be extremely difficult for her to do so in less than a few months. However, it was precisely because of the pure energy obtained from hunting demonic beasts that actually helped her break through another level in such a short period of time. It was really a pleasant surprise. If they could go out and hunt demonic beasts to increase their strength, it would undoubtedly be the best. Listening to Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Bewitching immediately understood her plan and nodded. Wait, I'll set up a new array. When Ziran and the others were also concerned about this. After seeing Bewitching start to get busy without saying anything, they looked at each other, wondering what kind of Jin formation Bewitching would arrange. Now I feel that following you husband and wife, the future is really bright. Ziran stretched his waist, his gentle face rippling with a lazy smile. That's right. Hongzhuang and her husband are really amazing. If we follow them, we don't have to think of a way out. How great! Chapter 5069. The next moment, Bewitching began to set up the array again. Looking at him seriously drawing the array pattern, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but smile. A serious man was always particularly charming. The others looked at Bewitching's movements and felt confused. They couldn't understand it at all. Ta Xing, I think I should learn another ability when I go back. What do you think? Di Xiaofeng said to Lin Ta Xing next to him as he watched Bewitching draw the array pattern. Lin Ta Xing nodded slightly. I think so. Then it's settled. You should learn one too. The next time we go out together, you can use it. I don't think I have any talent in other aspects. Lin Ta Xing hesitated. Then why are you so confident that I can do it? You are Beichun's elder brother. You should at least inherit some of his talents. Soon, Bewitching had set up the new array. With the same flash of light, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others already knew. I added another array on the basis of the original array. It will make the original array more stable and we can attack from the edge of the array. If we can't resist it, we can retreat into the array. As soon as he said this, everyone's eyes lit up. This method was really good. Beichen, your move is really amazing. Di Xiaofeng gave him a thumbs up. If we seize the opportunity here, I think my cultivation can be improved by another level. Lin Taxing also nodded with a smile. Yes, my cultivation hasn't improved for a while. Now I can feel the barrier of a breakthrough. Then, the others no longer hesitated and quickly walked out. If they didn't hurry to improve their strength now, when would they? The other cultivators were also very envious after seeing this scene. However, most of them were seriously injured and couldn't fight at all. They wanted to, but they didn't have the strength. If we can't get rid of this kid as soon as possible, I'm afraid he will soon surpass us with his hard work. A haze appeared in Chu Yingming's eyes. Normally, when they cultivated, although they all wanted to increase their strength, there was still a bit of laziness in them. However, from the eyes of Di Beichen and the others, they could only see the desire to improve their strength, not the slightest laziness. Let's heal ourselves as soon as possible. After we recover, we may be able to leave here. By then, Jun Ling Sun winked. The situation that Di Beichen and the others were showing now also made him feel a sense of crisis. He only hoped that after going out, they would be able to completely solve it. Nangong Yuqing nodded quietly and immediately entered the state of cultivation. In the past, he only regarded Di Xiaofeng as an opponent, but now unconsciously, Di Beichen had become the most troublesome guy. While he was cultivating, he couldn't help frowning. For some reason, ever since he was heavily injured, his recovery had been extremely slow. Not only that, but even his cultivation speed was affected, which made him very depressed. Could it be that the monsters here are so strange? Chu Yingming thought to himself, then shook his head helplessly and continued to cultivate. Chapter 50-70. Just as everyone was concentrating on killing the beasts, a sudden movement in front of them attracted everyone's attention. Look, what's that? Shangguan Yingying exclaimed as she looked in front of her. A circular rune suddenly appeared in front of them. It was shining brightly like a black hole, but it wasn't black. Everyone looked at this sudden change in shock. Their faces were filled with nervousness and caution. In this enigmatic place, the slightest change could cost them their lives, so they had to be careful. This thing appeared out of nowhere. Could it be that it saw that our situation was getting better, so it's causing trouble for us? Lin Qianqian frowned. It wasn't easy for them to breathe a sigh of relief. If something happened again, it would be infuriating. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others silently took a few steps back and returned to the array. Before they figured out the situation, it was obviously the safest way. But soon, everyone saw the situation clearly. As the dazzling light disappeared, several figures appeared in everyone's line of sight. When they saw the figure clearly, everyone's faces were filled with surprise. Yunyan. Di Xiaofeng looked at the figure in front of him in disbelief. He couldn't hide the joy and excitement on his face. Bailey Yunyan was also panicking when she saw the beasts around her. But she suddenly heard Di Xiaofeng's voice. She turned around and found that Di Xiaofeng was in front of her. She was pleasantly surprised. Bailey Hongzhuang looked around and found that the people behind Bailey Yunyan were also disciples of the Bailey family. Quickly save them. As Bailey Hongzhuang's voice fell, everyone reacted. But Di Xiaofeng had already rushed over. The beasts were already very annoyed when they couldn't take down Bailey Yunyan and the others for a long time. They were pleasantly surprised and immediately rushed over. Fortunately, Bailey Yunyan and the others were very close to Di Beichen and the others. In the face of danger, their reaction speed was very fast. So, they entered the array very narrowly. Yunyan, are you okay? It wasn't until they entered the array formation that Di Xiaofeng let out a sigh of relief and quickly sized up by Li Yunyan's body. Bailey Yunyan shook her head. Her face was also pale. Obviously, she still had some lingering fear. I'm fine, but what's going on here? Why are there so many demonic beasts? It's a long story. I'll tell you in detail later. Di Xiaofeng's face was filled with joy. These days, he had been worried that something might have happened to Bailey Yunyan. Every time he thought of this, he felt uncomfortable. Originally, he had thought that there was no hope left. However, when he suddenly saw Bailey Yunyan appear, He felt as if he had suddenly ascended to heaven. He felt incomparable joy. Bailey Yunyan nodded slightly. Feeling Di Xiaofeng's gentle gaze on her, she felt a burst of sweetness in her heart. And in this sweetness, she even felt that the surrounding environment didn't matter. Bailey Hongzhuang heaved a sigh of relief. Fortunately, nothing happened to the Bailey family, so she was relieved. At this moment, Lin Yi's voice sounded faintly, "Cousin, your hand is injured." Hearing this, Bailey Yunyan was taken aback. She pulled Di Xiaofeng's hand and noticed that there was blood on it. Chapter 5071. Bailey Yunyan's delicate little face was full of concern and nervousness. She asked quickly, "Is it serious?" Di Xiaofeng smiled and shook his head. "It's just a flesh wound. I'm fine." Bailey Yunyan immediately understood that he must have been injured when he was helping her just now, but she was too careless to notice it. "Sorry, I didn't notice it." "It's okay. This little injury doesn't get in the way at all." Di Xiaofeng smiled faintly. He had been injured many times recently. As long as he applied Bailey Hongzhuang's healing medicine, he would heal quickly. Lin Qianqian and others couldn't help but look at Lin Yi with concern. In fact, among so many people just now, only Lin Yi noticed that Di Xiaofeng was injured. From this point, it could be seen that Lin Yi still cared about Di Xiaofeng. Lin Yi noticed Lin Qianqian's gaze and smiled immediately, indicating that she was fine, but her eyes were still a little red. "Miss Lin, are you okay?" Ao Lingxiao had been standing beside Lin Yi. He naturally knew about the matter between Lin Yi and Di Xiaofeng. During this period of time, he knew that Lin Yi's temperament had always been very lively, but after the appearance of Bailey Yunyan, this expression was a bit far-fetched. Lin Yi shook her head, but her eyes were getting redder and redder. "I'm fine. I'm not injured. What can happen?" Ao Lingxiao nodded slightly when he saw this. His figure suddenly moved and stood in front of Lin Yi, blocking Di Xiaofeng's figure. "Didn't you say that you want to improve your cultivation? Now is the best time." Just at the moment when Ao Lingxiao blocked Di Xiaofeng, a drop of tear fell uncontrollably. She quickly wiped the tears from the corners of her eyes, then looked at Ao Lingxiao gratefully. "Brother Ao, thank you." Ao Lingxiao smiled faintly. "Silly girl, I want to thank you for taking care of me these days." "You are right. It is more important to improve my strength." Lin Yi straightened her face. "I am going to hunt the beasts so that I can help you take back the family clan." After Lin Yi rushed out, Ao Lingxiao also rushed out. "You have risked your life to help me take back my family. Of course, I can't lose to you." "Ha, you're right." Lin Qianqian and Lin Taxing couldn't help but look at each other after seeing this scene. Originally, they were worried about Lin Yi's mood. They didn't expect that with Ao Lingxiao accompanying her, there was nothing for them to do. "Ao Lingxiao is becoming more and more pleasing to the eye," Lin Qianqian said quietly. "I think so too." After Di Xiaofeng bandaged his wounds, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but ask, "Yunyan, how did you guys come out from there?" As soon as he said that, everyone looked over. They were all very confused about this point. "Not long after we entered the Immortal Cloud's secret realm, we discovered an inheritance. After that, we stayed in that inheritance until we found an exit. When we came out, we met you all," Bailey Yunyan explained. Hearing those words, the crowd looked to one another in dismay. However, they also understood that Bailey Yunyan would not deceive them regarding this sort of thing. "From the looks of it, you guys are the luckiest among all of us," Bailey Hongzhuang said with a smile. Everyone felt the same way. They had encountered too many dangers along the way. Chapter 5072. Not only did they not get the treasure, they almost lost their lives there. Needless to say, if there was a slight mistake, they could have lost their lives at any time. On the other hand, Bailey Yunyan and the others got the inheritance. Although she did not explain in detail, everyone knew that since they could come out of the ruins, they must have gotten the inheritance. "Yunyan, your cultivation has improved a lot." Di Xiaofeng sensed Bailey Yunyan's cultivation. "Looks like you got a lot of benefits in the ruins this time." Bailey Yunyan smiled and nodded. "I did get a good opportunity this time." "That's good." Di Xiaofeng did not ask in detail. As long as they got the opportunity, it was a good thing. Bailey Hongzhuang also smiled faintly. She also hoped that the Bailey family could become stronger. In the past, the Bailey family was one of the most powerful families. But now they had fallen to such a state. When she died, there were too many things that she did not make arrangements for. Her heart was filled with guilt. Although thousands of years later and thousands of years ago were completely different, and no one remembered her existence, she did not care. Because her soul belonged to the Bailey family. As long as the Bailey family could become stronger, she would be happy to see it. You guys go in and rest for a while. You must be tired. Di Xiaofeng looked at the people from the Bailey clan and led them into the encirclement. Bailey Yunyan and the others did not refuse. In fact, they also wanted to know the current situation. As soon as Bailey Yunyan and the others appeared, a look of astonishment appeared on the faces of the cultivators. Why did the Bailey family suddenly appear? If you guys did not appear now, I would have forgotten that you guys were in the team. Jun Lingshuan mocked. The Bailey family could not help but stare at him angrily. When they saw the injuries on Jun Lingshuan's body, their eyes changed slightly and they were gloating. The Bailey family has been in decline for so many years. Finally, a woman came to the Lin family. Isn't it too unrestrained to send herself to the Lin family? A woman's voice rang out from the crowd. Her voice was filled with mockery and ridicule. Isn't that 100 Miles Cloud? Usually, he has an otherworldly appearance, but after meeting Di Xiaofeng, his performance is completely different. Isn't that obvious? Why don't you think about the gap between the Bailey family, the Di family, and the Lin family? As long as one can rely on Di Xiaofeng, it's equivalent to relying on the two great clans. Who wouldn't seize this opportunity? Listening to everyone's ridicule, Bailey Yunyan's face gradually turned pale, and the hand that was originally grabbing Di Xiaofeng's arm also gradually loosened. She bit her lip and lowered her head. She suddenly felt that she couldn't raise her head in front of everyone's gazes. She wanted to explain that she really liked Di Xiaofeng, not that she wanted to hook up with him. However, she was even more aware of how feeble her explanation was. It was completely useless. No one would believe it. The gap between them was simply too great. Just like when Di Xiaofeng said he liked her, she couldn't believe it herself. Now, she believed it, but the others couldn't change their minds at all. Chapter 5073. Bailey Yunyan's face was deathly pale. However, when she heard this, a glimmer of light appeared in her dim eyes. Di Xiaofeng has always been the object of many women's hearts. Although Chu Yingming and the others were also young masters of their families, they couldn't compare to Di Beichen. Before Di Beichen had appeared, Di Xiaofeng was undoubtedly the most handsome young man among the group of young talents. After Di Beichen appeared, the two brothers were evenly matched. However, since Di Beichen was married, many people gave up on this idea. Moreover, from how much Di Beichen spoils his wife, it was impossible for him to marry someone else. Even the next saintess, Xiao Shou, was rejected. Naturally, no one else had the courage to challenge him. This was simply an impossible task. Di Xiaofeng was different. He didn't have a marriage contract. Even if everyone knew that he and Bailey Yunyan were close, no one thought that they would truly be together. This was because the gap was simply too big. After understanding how much Di Beichen spoiled his wife, the women's impression of the men from the Di family deepened. No matter what, at least the two were brothers. It was said that the head of the Di family also spoiled his wife. As long as she could marry Di Xiaofeng, she would become a treasure in his heart. Who wouldn't want to marry such a man? Now that they saw Bailey Yunyan standing next to him, they naturally didn't show any mercy. Di Xiaofeng, you don't really want to marry her, do you? Nangong Yuqing looked at Di Xiaofeng with a playful expression. What does that have to do with you? Di Xiaofeng coldly glanced at Nangong Yuqing. His handsome face was as cold as ice, like a glacier in the north, without the slightest bit of warmth. I'm just concerned about you. The corner of Nangong Yuqing's lips rose into a roguish smile. Bailey Yunyan, you shouldn't overestimate yourself. At this time, Xiao Shou glanced at Bailey Hongzhuang standing behind Bailey Yunyan and said, although you both have the same surname, the gap between you two isn't small. That's right. Di Beichen likes Bailey Hongzhuang because Bailey Hongzhuang is worth liking. Apart from your face, what else do you have to show? Everyone ridiculed. Perhaps it was because they weren't as lucky as Bailey Yunyen, so they were especially jealous when they saw others. What's wrong with Yunyen? What did she do to offend you? Do you need to be so rude? Bailey, you couldn't help but ask. We didn't say that she was wrong. We just said that she overestimated herself. At this time, a man behind Nangong Yuching suddenly laughed and said, "Are all the women in your Bailey family overestimating themselves? Is that girl by Li she still trying to kill herself?" Bailey Yunyen, who originally had her head down, suddenly raised it after hearing this. She looked at the man with a burning gaze. Could it be you? A trace of surprise appeared in Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes. In the past, she had treated Bailey Shi's illness. The girl's heart knot was very serious. If she hadn't done everything possible to help her, she would have died long ago. However, no matter how she or Bailey Yunyen asked, Bailey Shi refused to say the name of the man who betrayed her. Chapter 5074. That's right, it was me. Nangong Xiaolong's face was filled with pride, as if he didn't think that there was anything wrong with his actions. Do you know that because of you, she almost died? Bailey Yunyen couldn't hide the anger on her face, her beautiful eyes almost spitting fire. Bailey Shi was her closest sister and the two of them had grown up together. Now, because of Nangong Xiaolong, she had been driven out of the family and lost all hope. Thinking of her pitiful appearance, Bailey Yunyen couldn't help but feel sad. However, the culprit still had a smile on his face and didn't feel the slightest bit guilty. What does her death have to do with me? Nangong Xiaolong's face was indifferent. She didn't think about the gap between us. It's fine if she's just playing around, but she actually wants me to marry her. How is that possible? Bailey Yunyen's face was ashen. If you can't marry her, why did you promise her? I only said it casually, it was just a joke. If she believed me, she can only say that she's stupid. Nangong Yuching suddenly understood and couldn't help but ask, the woman you mentioned before is from the Bailey family? That's right, I met her when I was training. She's not bad looking, but she's a bit too stupid. Nangong Xiaolong, are you still speaking human words? The cultivators of the Bailey family were filled with anger and one of them couldn't help but rush forward and grab his collar. Do you know that because of you, she was driven out of the family and almost lost her life? No matter what, she was sincere to you. As long as you still have a bit of humanity, you shouldn't say such things. Having his collar suddenly grabbed, Nangong Xiaolong's face turned ugly and his eyes flashed with anger. He waved his hand and slapped the other person's hand away. Let go of me. Tidying up his wrinkled clothes, Nangong Xiaolong continued, she was the one who wanted to kill herself. What does that have to do with me? Then all the girls who adore me have to commit suicide. Is that my responsibility? I heard that she's pregnant with my child, right? Hearing Nangong Xiaolong's words, the faces of Bailey Yunyen and the others turned extremely ugly. Nangong Xiaolong, do you have to do this? Bailey Yunyen angrily said. For an unmarried woman, such a thing would definitely be looked down upon by everyone. The reason she hadn't brought this up was to save Bailey Shi's face. However, she never thought that this damned man would actually say it out loud in front of everyone. As expected, there was an uproar when everyone heard Nangong Xiaolong's words. Having feelings for each other wasn't a big deal. However, having a secret pregnancy was a big deal. This is the truth. Nangong Xiaolong smiled. She can only blame herself for not being reserved. Perhaps all the women in your Bailey family are like this, huh? Nangong Yuching and the others couldn't help but chuckle. They were more than happy to embarrass the D family. What did you say? Bailey Yunyen could no longer control her anger. She rushed forward and shouted, I will kill you today. Seeing Bailey Yunyen rush forward, Nangong Xiaolong didn't show any fear. He blocked her attack with one hand and pushed her back. Chapter 5075. Nangong Xiaolong was one of the top disciples of the Nangong family. Although he wasn't as strong as Nangong Yuching, he wasn't much weaker. Naturally, dealing with Bailey Yunyen wouldn't be difficult. Bailey Yunyen's face was pale. She secretly swore that as long as she found the heartless man who hurt she would kill him with her own hands. However, now that the other party was in front of her, she wasn't strong enough. Thinking of this, she hated her own powerlessness. At this moment, Di Xiaofeng directly knocked Nangong Xiaolong down with a punch. Then, am I strong enough? Di Xiaofeng's eyes were as sharp as knives. His entire body exuded a strong murderous aura. A bright light shone on his body, dazzling him. At this moment, the tyrannical and terrifying aura wasn't concealed in the slightest. His domineering aura was enough to crush everything. Seeing Di Xiaofeng like this, everyone's heart trembled. Di Xiaofeng. Nangong Xiaolong didn't expect Di Xiaofeng to suddenly attack. Caught off guard, 2 of his teeth were knocked out, causing him to speak with a lisp. A scum like you should have died long ago. Di Xiaofeng's murderous aura didn't weaken in the slightest. He had also seen Bailey Shi. At that time, Bailey Shi's zombie appearance was deeply imprinted in his heart. A good girl suddenly seemed to have lost her soul. How could he not feel distressed? However, this scum in front of him actually dared to talk about it. He wasn't worthy of being called a human. Di Xiaofeng, stop. Nangong Yuqing immediately stood up after seeing Di Xiaofeng attack. Are you bullying my Nangong family? Di Xiaofeng sneered. I saw that your Nangong family had a beast to deal with, so I helped you deal with it. Don't go too far. Nangong Yuqing's face was gloomy. My Nangong family's people are not for you to teach them a lesson. What if I say I have to teach you a lesson? Di Xiaofeng's gaze was ruthless and merciless. His slightly raised eyes narrowed, revealing endless killing intent and threat. Then you'll have to go against my Nangong family. So what if I can't? Di Xiaofeng stomped on Nangong Xiaolong's body. It's not like it's the first day we can't get through. Seeing Di Xiaofeng like this, the cultivators of the Nangong family all stood up. It seemed that today's situation was very difficult to resolve. Xiaofeng, cripple this scum first. Lin Taxing said. Di Xiaofeng nodded and increased the strength of his feet. He wanted to take Nangong Xiaolong's life. Nangong Yuqing moved and attacked Di Xiaofeng. If Nangong Xiaolong was killed in front of him, where would the Nangong family's reputation go? However, Di Xiaofeng kicked Nangong Xiaolong in front of the Bailey family. Seeing this opportunity, the cultivators from the Bailey family would not show mercy. Not only did this damned guy humiliate them in front of so many people, he even treated Bailey Shi like this. They only wished they could kill this guy. Bang bang bang. Everyone immediately started punching and kicking. You bastard! Go to hell. I'm going to kill you. You don't deserve to live. Chapter 5076. Big brother, save me. Nangong Xiaolong couldn't help but wail. This situation was completely out of his expectations. He didn't expect that Di Xiaofeng would attack him in order to help Bailey Yunyan vent her anger. Now that he was surrounded by so many people, he didn't even have the chance to stand up. How depressing. Di Xiaofeng, get out of my way. Nangong Yuqing roared. However, Di Xiaofeng didn't care about him at all. He continued to block Nangong Yuqing's way, not giving him a chance to escape. Nangong Yuqing was about to die from anger. In terms of strength, he was comparable to Di Xiaofeng. However, Di Xiaofeng was blocking him, so he couldn't get past him. Most importantly, the number of cultivators from the Di clan and Lin clan had already exceeded theirs. Nangong Xiaolong's wails were getting louder and louder. His internal organs were about to be displaced by these people. It's better to just kill him. Lin Qianqian's eyes were cold. Although she didn't have any relationship with Bailey Shi as a woman, she couldn't stand such a heartless man. He had broken a woman's heart and completely ruined her life. Yet, he was still acting so carefree and complacent. If he didn't pay the price, the heavens wouldn't tolerate it. At this moment, Bailey Yunyan said, "Don't kill him. I want him to kneel in front of Bailey Shi and admit his mistakes." Even though Bailey Shi's situation had improved, she knew that if she couldn't completely open the knot in her heart, Bailey Yunyan would never be able to live again. She wanted this man to kneel in front of Bailey Shi and beg for mercy, repenting his mistakes. Perhaps this way Bailey Shi would be free. Hearing this, Lin Qianqian's eyes flashed coldly. That's too easy for this guy. Nangong Xiaolong, who was originally worried about losing his life, was relieved after hearing this. As long as he didn't die today, he would seize the opportunity to teach these people a lesson in the future. Before Nangong Xiaolong could rejoice, Lin Chanxian directly stabbed her sword at him. "Didn't you say you wouldn't kill me?" Nangong Xiaolong was dumbfounded. He had just gotten a chance to breathe, so how could his life be in danger again? However, the next situation made Nangong Yuqing feel that it would be better to just kill him. A tragic and heartbreaking wail rang out, revealing a deep sense of despair, and it clearly entered everyone's ears. Nangong Yuqing and the others were stunned, not knowing what was going on. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others looked at Lin Chanxian in surprise. They didn't expect Lin Chanxian to be so decisive as to cripple Nangong Yuqing's family jewels with a single strike. Lin Chanxian remained calm despite everyone's stares. This kind of scum only knows how to bully women. It's better to make him unable to be a man so that he won't harm others in the future. Lin Yi nodded in agreement. "Sister, well done." Bailey Yunyan couldn't help but be dumbfounded after seeing this scene. She indeed felt that Nangong Xiaolong was hateful, and this thought had also appeared in her mind. However, she was still somewhat afraid of actually doing it. She did not expect Lin Chanxian to be so domineering. When she came back to her senses, she was delighted. Chapter 5077. In the next moment, Bailey Hongzhuang placed a pill into Nangong Xiaolong's mouth. Nangong Xiaolong covered his bloody wound with one hand and looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in shock, his face turning pale with fright. "What did you feed me?" "Poison." Bailey Hongzhuang coldly replied. "What did you say?" Nangong Xiaolong raised his voice, making it sound as sharp as a duck. "Why did you feed me poison? You were supposed to die today, but I wanted to give you a chance to repent to Bailey Shi. How could such a shameless scum like you ever have a moment of sincere repentance? Let me tell you, if you don't come with me, you'll lose your life." Bailey Hongzhuang's deep phoenix eyes rippled with a cold light as she stood up and clapped her hands. She looked as if Nangong Xiaolong was some kind of filthy thing. The cultivators present looked at Bailey Yunyan, Lin Chanxian, and Bailey Hongzhuang's smooth plan and actions. They couldn't help but sigh. "I didn't expect a woman to be so ruthless." Everyone sighed. However, they didn't have much sympathy for Nangong Xiaolong. After all, this guy really went too far. "Bailey Hongzhuang, how dare you poison Xiaolong?" Nangong Yuqing's eyes were burning with rage. If looks could kill, Bailey Hongzhuang would have been killed 1,000 times over. "So what?" Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Nangong Yuqing with disdain. "Your family likes to raise scum like him, but since he provoked us, he naturally has to pay the price." "Damn it!" Nangong Yuqing cursed. His complexion was ashen. His Nangong family was a well-known family in the world, but he didn't dare to offend them. But now, the other party didn't care about their reputation. Not only did they cripple Nangong Xiaolong's manhood in front of everyone, they even brazenly poisoned him. If he couldn't get justice today, where would the Nangong family's face go in the future? Looking at Di Xiaofeng and the others in front of him, he knew that his team's strength wasn't enough. He immediately turned his head to Jun Lingshuan and Chu Yingming. "Come and help me." Hearing Nangong Yuqing's words, Chu Yingming and Jun Lingshuan looked at him. However, the two of them only watched without showing any signs of wanting to make a move. "I won't mistreat you." As soon as he said this, Chu Yingming and Jun Lingshuan's eyes shone with a satisfied light. Naturally, if he wanted to help, he would have to offer some benefits. In the next moment, the cultivators from the Chu family and the Jun family stood up and confronted the people from the Di family. Seeing this, Murong Jing could no longer sit still. He immediately led the cultivators from the Murong family to stand up as well. "What? You want a group fight?" Murong Jing sneered. "We'll accompany you to the end. Di Xiaofeng, today's matter was started by you. If you don't give me an explanation, this matter won't be over." After finding a helper, Nangong Yuqing's confidence was boosted. "If it's not over, then it's not over." "Do you think I'm afraid of you?" Di Xiaofeng sneered. "Who started the trouble first? You know in your heart." "Di Xiaofeng, don't be too arrogant." Chapter 5078. His calm voice was laced with a hint of threat, giving off an indescribable pressure. That's right. I admit that your D family's strength isn't weak, but you can't use your power to bully others. Jun Lingshuan also spoke out, his deep eyes rippling with a malicious light. He had always been looking for an opportunity to teach them a lesson. As long as he could turn the D family into an existence that everyone despised, that would be the happiest thing for him. What do you want then? D Beichen raised his eyebrows, a playful look on his bright and handsome face. An eye for an eye. As long as Di Xiaofeng kneels down and apologizes, this matter will be settled, Jun Lingshuan said. He was clear that Di Xiaofeng would never agree to this request. Therefore, this conflict could not be resolved. Jun Lingshuan, I gave you some face, but you really think you're something? Di Beichen's gaze suddenly froze, and a chilling aura erupted from him. Do you want me to remove this defensive formation? As soon as he said that, Jun Lingshuan's expression froze. He had almost forgotten that this trump card was in Di Beichen's hands. With the existence of this card, they simply couldn't do anything to Di Beichen. The expressions of Nangong Yuqing and the others were unsightly. Unfortunately, this trump card was in Di Beichen's hands. However, if they let this matter go just like that, how would the Nangong family face the world? As he thought of this, Nangong Yuqing couldn't help feeling gloomy. If he had known this would happen, he wouldn't have allowed Nangong Xiaolong to be so arrogant. Instead, he had stirred up such a mess, leaving no room for negotiation. At this moment, Chen Feng exited his cultivation state and walked over. In my opinion, since this matter has already come to this, we might as well turn this matter into a small one, and a small one into nothing, Chen Feng said slowly. Seeing Chen Feng say such sarcastic words at this time, Nangong Yuqing felt even more annoyed. Why didn't you stand up when they were attacking Xiaolong earlier? You're only speaking up now. I was cultivating earlier, Chen Feng said with a calm expression, as if he was stating an extremely normal fact. However, Nangong Yuqing really wanted to slap this guy. Wasn't this obviously a blatant lie? How could they not hear such a loud commotion? Even an idiot would know that Chen Feng was helping Di Xiaofeng on purpose. However, what was the point of him continuing to compete with Chen Feng? Chu Yingming's brows were tightly knitted together. The reason why he had not stood out earlier was also because he had considered this. Under such circumstances, they would not be able to gain the upper hand against Di Beichen and the others. The reason why he stood up for Nangong Yuqing was not only because of the benefits, but also because he wanted Nangong Yuqing to owe him a favor. After all, he and the Di family were already rivals. Even if there was a little conflict, it wouldn't be a big deal. Since we can't stay here any longer, you should leave this place, Di Beichen said slowly. Hearing this, Nangong Yuqing couldn't help but feel anxious. Why should we? The moment they left this place, with their strength, they wouldn't be able to deal with the terrifying beasts outside. Only death would await them. It's fine if you don't want to leave. We'll leave it. Di Beichen spread his hands with a calm expression. He was about to retract the formation and leave with Di Xiaofeng and the others. Chapter 5079. When the crowd saw Di Beichen preparing to leave, they couldn't help but feel anxious. As long as the formation existed, they would have a chance to survive. Once Di Beichen and the others left, the Di family, Lin family, Murong family, and the Bailey family would naturally be safe, but they would be finished. Nangong Yuqing, if anyone is to leave, it should be you. That's right, this matter is Nangong Xiaolong's fault. After doing such a thing, he's still so shameless. It's already good enough that we didn't kill him directly. I never thought that the Nangong family would have such a scum, but they're so proud of it. It's simply terrible. Staying here will only dirty our eyes. It's better to leave as soon as possible. For a time, everyone pointed their spears at Nangong Yuqing and the others. In the face of their own interests, they didn't care about anything else. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Di Beichen and couldn't help but ask, "Are you really going to leave?" "I'm just saying." Di Beichen smiled faintly, "But actually, leaving is fine." Hearing Di Beichen's words, everyone immediately understood that this black-bellied guy had already calculated everything. The reason why he said such words was to make Nangong Yuqing and the others angry. Based on the current situation, everyone's spit could drown Nangong Yuqing and the others. There was no need for them to make a move. Brilliant, this move is really brilliant. Di Xiaofeng quietly gave Di Beichen a thumbs up. He knew that leaving wasn't Di Beichen's style. It was to make Nangong Yuqing be despised by everyone. Looking at Nangong Yuqing's increasingly ugly expression, he had to admit that this was really a good move. Thank you for the compliment. Di Beichen calmly accepted everyone's praise. As for the words black-bellied and fox, he took them all as compliments and accepted them all. Nangong Yuqing stood in place, not knowing what to say in the face of the crowd's clamor. Nangong Yuqing, think about it. Chen Feng glanced at Nangong Yuqing indifferently before returning to his original spot and continuing his cultivation. He could no longer be bothered with Nangong Yuqing. In my opinion, it's best to take advantage of this opportunity to drive them away. In any case, these guys have a grudge against us. Why should we protect them? Lin Qianqian's eyes flashed with resentment and coldness. Especially that Jun Lingxuan. No matter what, he's always around. It's so annoying just looking at him. You are right. Let's take this opportunity to drive them out. Lin Yi nodded. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others looked at each other. As long as Nangong Yuqing didn't lower his head, they could use this opportunity to drive these guys away. Chu Yingming immediately sat down after realizing that the situation was unfavorable. His family still had many injured people. Once he left this place, the clan's disciples would definitely lose their lives. He couldn't let such a thing happen. Nangong Yuqing, a wise man, submits to circumstances. Now is not the time to compete, Chu Yingming said in a deep voice. Nangong Yuqing's expression was extremely unsightly. On one side was the pale-faced Nangong Xiaolong. On the other side was the safety of the clan's disciples. He knew very well what choice he should make, but he really couldn't swallow this anger. Revenge is a dish best served cold. Chapter 50-80. Young Master Nangong, don't think too much. Nothing is more important than your life. Xiao Soa couldn't help but speak up. Now that the four families were on the same side, it wouldn't be good for them if something happened to the Nangong family. Nangong Yuqing's eyes lit up when he heard Xiao Soa's words. His expression softened a bit. He didn't expect that Xiao Soa would care about him. What a pleasant surprise. Now that Chu Yingming had taken the lead, Nangong Yuqing no longer hesitated. Xiaolong was indeed in the wrong, but you've already taught him a lesson. Why don't we just let it go? Nangong Yuqing slowly said. Seeing Nangong Yuqing take the initiative to soften his words, everyone's expression became very interesting. I didn't expect Nangong Yuqing to take the initiative to admit his mistake. If I didn't see it with my own eyes, I wouldn't have believed it. What else can we do? Nangong Yuqing has no way out. Once he leaves, he'll die. Lin Taxing frowned. This guy is really shameless. I wanted to use this opportunity to drive him out, but now he's taking the initiative to soften his words. That won't do. Just drive him out. Lin Qianqian was very persistent. Whenever she thought of this hateful guy, she hoped the heavens would take him away. Nangong Yuqing, we hate each other. You should just leave. Di Xiaofeng coldly said. Nangong Yuqing didn't expect Di Xiaofeng to be so excessive after he softened his words. He wanted to argue, but he also understood that this was what Di Xiaofeng wanted. Once the two sides fought, no one would help him. Nangong Yuqing directly closed his eyes and didn't say anything else. Anyway, he had already made up his mind. As long as he pretended to be dead, Di Beichen wouldn't be able to do anything to him in front of so many people. Noticing Nangong Yuqing's reaction, Di Xiaofeng was stunned for a moment before disbelief appeared on his face. Is this guy acting shamelessly? It seems so. Fuck. Young master, is Xiaolong's penis going to be destroyed? A cultivator from the Nangong family couldn't help but ask in a low voice. What else can we do? Nangong Yuqing snappily said, if we continue to fight, all of us will die. Nangong Xiaolong fainted when he saw that his elder brother had given up on him. He simply could not believe this fact. From today onwards, he, Nangong Xiaolong, was no longer a man. When Bailey Hongzhuang was about to discuss with Di Beichen, she found that Di Beichen had already sat down on the ground and started cultivating. However, after feeling the fluctuation of the latter's aura, she immediately understood that Beichen was about to break through. Di Xiaofeng and the others naturally felt it immediately. Their eyes lit up and smiles appeared on their faces. Beichen is about to break through again. Emperor Xiaofeng couldn't help but sigh. The heavenly mandate body is truly extraordinary. I've been watching you guys break through these days. Previously, when Beichen had just returned to the family, his cultivation base had only been at the Starlight Realm. In such a short period of time, he had already broken through to the Nebula Realm. Chapter 5081. In the past, I only heard that the cursed body was a unique constitution of your family. Once it is transformed, it will become extremely powerful. At that time, I didn't pay much attention to it, but now it seems that this constitution is really extraordinarily powerful. Murong Jing's eyes were filled with emotion. Suddenly, she understood why Di Beichen had been wandering outside for so many years. After he came back, the Di family did not have the slightest dispute about the position of young lord. It was because the difference between the upper and lower realms was not reflected in Di Beichen's body. It was not only in Di Beichen, but also in Bailey Hongzhuang. Even their teammates were abnormal existences. Di Xiaofeng smiled brightly. Of course, the unique constitution of our family is not simple. For hundreds of years, there has not been a cultivator of the cursed body in our family, but Beichen obtained this inheritance. Naturally, he is the undisputed young master of our family. Back then, when Beichen was just born, the old man had already made the decision to make him the next young master. Fortunately, although Beichen has not been in the family these years, he is also a dragon among men. Sometimes I feel that perhaps this is God's experience for him. You see, didn't you find a wife who is a match made in heaven? Murong Jing, Lin Taxing, and the others could not help chuckling as Di Xiaofeng's voice fell. What you said really makes sense. Murong Jing nodded in agreement. I think I should also go out to gain experience. Maybe I can find a good wife. Di Xiaofeng agreed. Why don't you go with Taxing? You both need it anyway. Lin Taxing rolled his eyes. I didn't say anything. Why are you involving me again? Aren't I just concerned about your life? Di Xiaofeng blinked and teased. Come on, I'm so young. I'm not in a hurry. However, after Lin Taxing said this, he met Murong Jing's bitter eyes in the blink of an eye. Taxing, do you mean to say that I'm old? Lin Taxing was slightly taken aback, then quickly waved his hand. I didn't mean that. Then what do you mean? Di Xiaofeng asked as if he wanted to see the world in chaos. I meant for you to shut up. Lin Qianqian could not help but ask, what should we do now? I didn't know Nangong Yuqing was so thick-skinned. In the face of life and death, how could he still care about face? Di Xiaofeng's eyes were filled with mockery. That's all we can do for now. Beichen is breaking through. If we disturb Beichen during this process, it would be bad. This fellow is really something. If he knew that he wasn't a match for us, why did he have to humiliate himself? You want to seek justice for Nangong Xiaolong? What a joke. Although Nangong Yuqing pretended to be cultivating on the surface, he couldn't cultivate in peace under such circumstances. He did not expect to hear Lin Qianqian's ridicule. He almost vomited blood. You were the ones who attacked first, and now you're blaming me. If it weren't for this defensive formation, would I be so sullen? However, no matter how dissatisfied he was at the moment, he could only swallow his anger. He was sure that if he dared to show a trace of dissatisfaction, he would immediately be driven out. As Di Beichen began to concentrate on breaking through, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others stayed by his side. The other cultivators of the Di family and the Lin family continued to go out to hunt demon beasts. Chapter 5082. Master, we had such a great opportunity just now. Why didn't we use it to drive the Nangong family out? Xiao He sat on Bailey Hongzhuang's shoulder and couldn't help but ask the question that had been bothering her. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and poked Xiao He's chubby cheeks. Beichen only said that to infuriate everyone's dissatisfaction with Nangong Yuqing. Now that we have both internal and external troubles, if we insist on driving the Nangong family out, he will definitely join forces with the other families. When that time comes, the situation will only become more chaotic. But with so many people attacking together, they won't be able to stop us, right? Xiao Hei's eyes were filled with doubt. On the surface, it seems so. However, when it comes to the real fight, these factions are all very selfish. How many of them are actually doing their best? Moreover, the amount of yuan qi needed to maintain this defensive array every day is astonishing. You don't have to worry. Once we leave this place, we will have plenty of opportunities to deal with them. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. Ever since she had fought with them, she had sensed that their strength was not inferior to the other parties. Thus, the worry in her heart had lessened by a lot. Xiao Hei nodded slightly. That's true. Let's take advantage of this time to increase our cultivation. When the time comes, it will be easier to deal with them. As the group of disciples hunted the demonic beasts, the yuan qi accumulated in their bodies increased. Gradually, one by one, the cultivators were on the verge of breaking through. When the crowd saw the cultivators from the Di family, Lin family, and Murong family break through, their eyes were filled with envy. With this defensive array, killing demonic beasts is a great opportunity to increase our cultivation. That's right. Normally, the yuan qi we absorb during cultivation is not as pure as this. Our cultivation speed is also incomparable to now. It's a pity that our injuries have not yet healed, so killing demonic beasts is difficult. We can only watch helplessly. Everyone sighed. This feeling of only being able to watch and not eat was really depressing. When the leaders of the various factions saw this scene, their hearts grew even more anxious. Originally, their strength was on par with each other. However, if Di Beichen took advantage of this opportunity to quickly increase his cultivation, they would be left in the dust. Thinking of this, they began to cultivate with all their might, hoping that their bodies would recover quickly. Yun Yen, rest here. When you want to come out and train, come find me. Di Xiaofeng reminded them. Hearing this, Yun Yen nodded with a smile on her face. Just now, Di Xiaofeng had already settled them down. Shi Yunyan's her heart filled her with joy. Once she returned, she would definitely tell Shi this news. This damned Nangong Xiaolong actually let Shi down. But now that he had such an ending, it was quite satisfying. She only hoped that Shi would be able to let go of this matter and walk out of it. Thank you. TSST. If you hadn't given us the spots, we wouldn't have been able to enter. Bailey Yunyan's eyes were filled with sincerity. Ever since she met Bailey Hongzhuang, she had helped her a lot. Chapter 5083. Upon hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Bailey Yunyan was slightly taken aback. Her cheeks instantly flushed red. Hongzhuang, we haven't even taken any shape yet. Haven't taken any shape yet? Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. Xiaofeng doesn't look like it. Upon seeing Bailey Yunyan's bashful look, Bailey Hongzhuang stopped teasing her and immediately changed the topic. Yun Yan, what kind of inheritance did you encounter previously? Is it a coincidence that everyone in your family is together? She had always felt that this was very strange. Just like when she had first entered the Divine Cloud's secret realm, it was extremely difficult for her to find anyone she knew. Naturally, it was even more difficult for Bailey Yunyan to find her family members. After all, there were only a small number of them. However, based on what she had seen, almost all the cultivators from the Bailey family were here. This was very interesting. Hongzhuang, this is really amazing. The inheritance that I've received this time is actually the inheritance from our Bailey family's old ancestor. Upon hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes flashed with astonishment. Perhaps the old ancestor wanted to protect us. That's why we've gathered together. Otherwise, there are so many powerful cultivators here. It wouldn't have been easy for us to make it here alive. Bailey Yunyan's fair little face was filled with joy. She was also silently grateful. If it had not been for the old ancestors' protection, they would have lost their lives in the various dangers that everyone had mentioned. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. I see. Although I've received the inheritance, I haven't fully mastered it. I'm afraid that I'll need some time to fully master it. Otherwise, I would have been able to teach Nangong Xiaolong a lesson myself. As she spoke, Bailey Yunyan could not help but look at Nangong Xiaolong on the other side. The hatred in her eyes was still very strong. Nangong Xiaolong could not help but shiver when he sensed her cold glare. However, he did not dare to retort. Now that even his big brother could not protect him, if he were to cause any more trouble, he would not even be able to keep his life. At this moment, even though he was already poisoned, he did not feel too much despair. This was because he was very clear about Bailey Shi's feelings for him. As long as he told Bailey Shi would definitely find a way to help him find the antidote. Then everything would be solved. When Bewitching successfully broke through to second-order nebula, Bailey Hongzhuang also welcomed the opportunity to break through. Not only that Xiao He and Xiao Bai, but they also had their strengths. Time gradually passed. As the injuries of the cultivators within the defensive Dharma array gradually healed, they were filled with fighting spirit and wanted to join the battle. Over the past few days, they had only been watching others improve, and they had long been impatient. Nai Hongzhuang. Bai by Yunyan Hongzheng. Is by a look. S's. S's. Bys. S-A. Was it? Like the world's brightest power, it instantly attracted everyone's attention. A faint and pleasant chanting sound came from the white light. It refreshed the heart and purified the soul. What a rich light energy! Bailey Hongzhuang could not help but exclaim. This power was extremely pure. It was no different from the light energy she displayed. Chapter 5084. This is the first time I've seen such dense and powerful light energy. Xiao So stared ahead in a daze, her face revealing shock and yearning, and even a bit of infatuation. What is this place in front of us? Why is there such a dense amount of light energy? Chu Yingming couldn't help but be shocked. This energy was even more shocking than the assembly's once-in-a-decade chant. If he didn't see it with his own eyes, he would find it hard to believe that there was such a place in the Divine Cloud's secret territory. If the cultivators of the assembly saw this, they would be even more excited. As long as we pass through this group of beasts, we will be able to find out. Di Xiaofeng slowly said. Compared to the demonic beasts in front of him, the place that was emitting the power of light was simply a heavenly existence. As Di Xiaofeng's voice trailed off, everyone's gaze towards the beasts became even more heated. They only hoped that they could kill these beasts as soon as possible. Then they would be able to take a look. It's a pity that the number of beasts is so shocking. If we want to kill all of them, we will have to stay here for a long time. Qiu Baixin sighed. Over the past few days, they have killed a lot of beasts. However, the difference in numbers was still too big. All the beasts in the Divine Cloud's secret territory were gathered here. The number of beasts was imaginable. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen exchanged glances. Their gazes were full of anticipation and understanding. It seemed that the inheritance was right in front of them. Xiao He and Xiao Bai's previous mistress was the saint. I think only the saint has this kind of power. Her ink-black eyes were full of shock and admiration. Only when she saw it with her own eyes did she understand how powerful the saint was. Before this, she only had a vague guess. But after experiencing it for herself, the shock she felt affected her heart. Even though there was a huge gap between her capabilities and the saint's, as long as she worked hard, the gap would shrink. This feeling was like seeing an infinite amount of hope. Her heart was full of anticipation. However, just as everyone was thinking about how to kill these demonic beasts as soon as possible and head to the place where the light energy was emitted, they suddenly realized that the ruthless aura in the demonic beast's eyes began to dissipate. The demonic beast's gazes gradually calmed down. Listening to the melodious chant, their attacks also stopped and they began to retreat. Seeing this scene, everyone present couldn't help but be surprised. The power of light is too strong. Even the demonic beasts were purified by it. That's right. The attacks of those demonic beasts just now were so fierce. Just a simple chant was enough to make them let go of the hostility in their hearts. This kind of ability is simply shocking. We're both chanting, but the gap between us is just too big. Bailey Hongzhuang sighed inwardly. Previously, when she was chanting, she felt that the buff effect on the team was not bad. Now, it seemed that they were not on the same level at all. The chanting in front of her was able to make all the demonic beasts give up on attacking in a short period of time. This kind of influence was beyond her imagination. She finally understood why the power of light was so revered. If she could reach the level of the Saint of Light, how terrifying would her power be? Chapter 5085. After the beasts were reformed, they retreated one after another. Only then did everyone walk out of the defensive array. Bathed in the sun again and feeling the warm aura, a relaxed smile appeared on everyone's face. I thought I would definitely lose my life here this time. I didn't expect the tables to turn. Not only did I survive, but I also saw such a magnificent scene. In the next moment, everyone no longer hesitated and quickly walked toward the place where the light power was blooming. They also wanted to know what was blooming with such intense light. According to their judgment, the inheritance was probably in front of them. Master, let's go and have a look. Xiao He rubbed her hands, her face full of expectation. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly and also walked forward at the same time. Before she arrived, she heard a burst of exclamations. Oh my God, there is such a beautiful place. Is this a divine tree? It's so dreamy. This tree knows how to chant. Is it the light divine tree? Bailey Hongzhuang's people quickened their pace and soon saw the scene in front. However, as they saw it clearly, a strong shock emerged in their hearts. In their sight, a towering tree stood. This tree seemed to be able to penetrate the world. Everyone stood in front of it, looking extremely small. Even hundreds of people couldn't surround the thick trunk. The amazing green with starry light made it look like a divine tree. Just looking at it made people admire it and not dare to blaspheme it. The dense power of light was being emitted from the divine tree. As everyone got closer, the power of light became more and more intense. Standing under the tree, one only felt that the whole person was bathed in the light power. All the fatigue in the body began to disappear, and some hidden diseases were also cured. The hardships of the past few days seemed to have dissipated into nothingness. Everyone's faces were full of smiles. They only felt that their bodies were as light as a swallow, having an unprecedented ease. This is the powerful power of the light power. Lin Yi couldn't help but sigh. Why does this scene in front of me make me feel like I'm dreaming? Not to mention you, I also have this feeling. Lin Taxing laughed. This tree is so thick. I'm afraid it has lived here for many years. Bewitching sized up the divine tree in front of him. He was also shocked by this scene. This kind of feeling seemed to have already surpassed the scope of what humans could achieve, and the shock it brought was not something that could be compared to the past. Xiao Soa leaned against the tree trunk in surprise, her eyes filled with ecstasy and obsession. That's right, this is the origin of the power of light. The Saint of Light had disappeared for many years. It was because of the appearance of the Saint of Light that they found out that they could cultivate elemental powers. However, the Holy Maiden of Light had disappeared not long after she appeared. Naturally, this inheritance did not have much of a foundation. Many of the current cultivation methods were discovered by the powerhouses of the Holy Light Society. All along, the Holy Light Assembly had been hoping to find the inheritance of the Holy Maiden of Light. As long as they could find the Light Sacred Assembly, they would definitely be revitalized and their influence would be even stronger. However, how difficult was it to find the inheritance? For so many years, no one was able to find it. She had always held the same expectations, but she also understood that the difficulty was too great. Chapter 5086. Standing under the tree of God, Xiao Soa felt that she had countless inspirations. She seemed to have found a way to break through all the obstacles that she had encountered while cultivating the power of light. She was sure that as long as she cultivated by the tree of God for a while, her power of light would definitely increase greatly. Her strength would be far greater than before. She even thought that she had never been able to become the true Holy Maiden of Light. Perhaps she could achieve it through this opportunity. If she could obtain the inheritance of the Holy Maiden of Light, who would have any objections to her succeeding the position of the Holy Maiden of Light? Thinking of this, Xiao Suo could not help but feel happy. However, she subconsciously looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. Out of everyone, only Bailey Hongzhuang could pose a threat to her. Bailey Hongzhuang was also sizing up the Tree of God. She realized that after getting close to the Tree of God, her thoughts seemed to have become clearer in an instant. Many problems became simpler than usual. Bewitching, I think that cultivating under the Tree of God for a while will be very beneficial for us. Hearing this, Bewitching nodded slightly. That's right. This is the inheritance of the Holy Maiden of Light. It's indeed a good opportunity. Xiao He and Xiao Bai had already sat down and began to comprehend the power of light. Ever since they had merged into one, they had dual attributes. In fact, they had dual attributes. It was just that they had not found a way to awaken them previously because of the loss of their memories. Although they had almost lost their lives when Xiao He self-destructed the last time, it was a blessing in disguise. They had actually found the altar of God and recovered their memories. Now, they were much stronger than before. This is really a good place to comprehend and cultivate. Di Xiaofeng smiled. I feel like I'm about to break through. That's right. I've been stuck at this bottleneck for a long time. I didn't expect to touch the barrier of a breakthrough after just standing here for a while. Murong Jing could not hide the joy on his face. He did not say anything else and immediately sat down to meditate and try to break through. This kind of opportunity did not come by at all times. It was not easy for him to feel it, so he had to seize the opportunity. Otherwise, he didn't know when he would be able to break through again. Murong Jing was not the only one. Many cultivators had only stood under the divine tree for a moment before they felt the opportunity to break through. In an instant, more than half of the cultivators began to attempt to break through. Such a grand occasion was obviously impossible to happen on a normal day, but it did happen at this moment. Everyone was immersed in joy, and they realized that the demonic beasts that had retreated had also returned. However, before they could even put up their guard, these demonic beasts had already submitted to the divine tree, their eyes shining with reverence. I suddenly understand why these demonic beasts are so strong. The place where this divine tree is located is completely a place where spiritual qi gathers. Bailey Hongzhuang's clear eyes were filled with joy. The corners of her lips curled up slightly. In her line of sight, the dense elemental energy seemed to have condensed into a solid substance and drifted around the Tree of God, causing the scene in front of her to look like a fairyland. That's right. I didn't think that there would be such a scene at the back. It's like the world of immortals. Chapter 5087. Among all the cultivators present, besides the light attribute cultivators, the wood attribute cultivators were the happiest. This was because the Tree of God exuded a strong life force, which was extremely helpful to the wood attribute cultivators. Cultivating here would result in twice the results with half the effort. Very quickly, all the cultivators surrounded the Tree of God and began to meditate and cultivate. This was probably their biggest gain after entering the immortal cloud mystery realm. Not only humans, but even the beasts were cultivating. During this process, some people were even surprised to find that the beasts were not hostile towards them at all. On the contrary, they began to get along with each other. Peace, tranquility, ease. Such a place was truly like a paradise on earth. There was no fighting at all. Everyone had an unprecedented peace in their hearts. At the same time, they also had a deeper understanding of the power of light. In the blink of an eye, half a month had passed. Bewitching looked at the excited crowd around him. His handsome brows furrowed slightly. He looked at Bailey Hongzhuang and said, "Wife, I don't know why, but I keep feeling that something is not right here." The warm and pleasant voice was filled with suspicion. Bewitching looked around suspiciously. Everything looked normal, but he had a strange feeling in his heart. Hearing Bewitching's words, Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. "I have the same feeling too." "You too?" Bewitching raised his brows. His gaze instantly became serious. If he was the only one who had this feeling, perhaps it was just an illusion. However, since Bailey Hongzhuang also had this feeling, it proved that this strange feeling was real. That's right. Bailey Hongzhuang's voice was filled with certainty. Then she furrowed her brows again. However, I also don't understand what's wrong. Everything looks normal here. In the next moment, Di Beichen called out to Di Xiaofeng, who was cultivating beside him. Beichen, what's the matter? Brother, do you feel that something is wrong here? Emperor Xiaofeng looked around and shook his head blankly. No, what's wrong? Noticing that Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen were serious and didn't seem to be joking, Di Xiaofeng became more serious and patted Lin Taxing beside him. Star Stomper, do you feel that something is wrong? Wrong? Lin Taxing shook his head. I think everything here is great. I've never felt so good before. My cultivation speed has improved by leaps and bounds. Seeing this, Di Xiaofeng looked at Di Beichen. What's the problem? It's nothing. I just vaguely feel that something is wrong. Di Beichen's deep and charming eyes rippled with a complicated and cautious luster. He began to look around seriously. He didn't believe that it was an illusion. There must be something that they missed. Jun Lingxuan was sitting not far from Di Beichen. After hearing the conversation between Di Beichen and others, he couldn't help but sneer. I'm afraid that Di Beichen is used to being in the limelight. How dare he say that something is wrong under the sacred tree? What a joke! Xiao Suo couldn't help but open her eyes after hearing Jun Lingxuan's words. Looking at Di Beichen, who was frowning, she thought for a moment and understood the key to the problem. Chapter 5088. Following Xiao Suo's words, Jun Lingxuan was stunned for a moment, then his eyes shone with astonishment. What did you say? Di Beichen has the darkness attribute? That's right. Xiao Suo nodded. He does have the darkness attribute. How did you know? Our family has a very good relationship with the imperial capital. My father told me, so it should be true. When Jun Lingxuan heard this, his voice was very loud. In this quiet environment, it was very abrupt. After hearing Xiao Suo's confirmation, many cultivators opened their eyes, their hearts filled with astonishment. Di Beichen has the darkness attribute? It can't be. As a darkness attribute cultivator, he can actually become the young master. This Di family is really different. I suddenly understand why Di Beichen didn't use his elemental power during the fight. It turns out that he has the darkness attribute. That's why he didn't use it. Everyone discussed spiritedly, their faces filled with realization. This was something that everyone had been wondering about. When they fought with Chu Yingming, everyone believed that as long as Di Beichen used his elemental power, Chu Yingming might not be his opponent. However, Di Beichen didn't show any signs of using his elemental power from beginning to end. It wasn't until now that they connected all the dots that everyone completely understood. Chu Yingming looked at Di Beichen not far away. His malicious eyes lit up, and a trace of relaxation appeared between his brows. Young master, you don't need to worry now. The Chu family disciple smiled. The darkness inheritance has disappeared long ago. Darkness attribute cultivators have no future. Even if he isn't weak now, as long as he can't find a way to cultivate the darkness attribute, his future achievements won't be high. Chu Yingming smiled faintly and nodded. I didn't expect him to have such a fatal flaw. No wonder he didn't want to show it. I was wondering how powerful Di Beichen was. So it turns out that he has the darkness attribute. TSK, what a waste of talent. Nangong Yuqing chuckled. All the unfairness from before seemed to be balanced in an instant. Because Di Beichen's future couldn't compare to theirs. So what if he has the darkness attribute? Is there a need to make such a fuss? Di Zhirais heard everyone's ridicule, and a trace of anger appeared between his brows. There's no future for darkness attribute cultivators. This is an attribute that everyone despises. What can you do? Xiao Sudong ridiculed. Even if our young master has the darkness attribute, isn't he beating you? You. Xiao Sudong speechless. What about me? Am I not speaking the truth? I don't bother. Xiao Xiaojio hear Di Beichen say, at this moment is he's. Di Xiaofeng and the others looked at Di Beichen with worry. Beichen, are you all right? The darkness attribute has always been despised by others. It's the most disliked attribute. It was precisely because of this that cultivators of the dark attribute often received strange looks from others. Suddenly being treated like this by so many people, one can imagine his mood. Seeing everyone's worry, Bewitching chuckled, "Do I look like someone with a weak heart?" Everyone looked at each other in dismay. For a moment, they didn't know how to answer. But this. Chapter 5089. Di Xiaofeng and the others looked at Bewitching worriedly. Even if he looked indifferent on the surface, he must be feeling a little uncomfortable inside. After all, being looked at strangely by so many people, no one would feel good. Only Bailey Hongzhuang was very calm. She had been with Bewitching for so long, so she naturally knew how much Bewitching could bear. Along the way, this kind of thing had already happened countless times. From the moment Bewitching knew that he had the dark attribute, he was already mentally prepared. Moreover, Bewitching didn't only have the dark attribute, he also had the light attribute. So Bewitching has the dark attribute. In that case, he's not suitable for you. Jun Lingshuan looked at Xiao Souo. "You're the holy maiden of light, how can you be with someone with the dark attribute?" Xiao Souo nodded slightly. Before she could speak, Xiao Sudong had already spoken first. "Of course. How can a cultivator with his attribute be worthy of my big sister?" The faces of the cultivators of the Xiao family were filled with pride. Previously, because Di Beichen had refused the marriage contract with Xiao Se Wu, they felt a burst of shame. They didn't expect that there would be such a thing, and their mentality suddenly changed. It wasn't that Di Beichen rejected Xiao Souo, but that he wasn't worthy of Xiao Souo at all. All the cultivators changed their minds almost instantly. Cultivators with the dark attribute were destined to have no future. If it was said that because of Di Beichen's performance before, everyone had a higher opinion of him, but now his status had dropped a lot. No matter how outstanding his performance was now, it was meaningless if he had no future. When Lin Qianqian saw that the people of the Xiao family were mercilessly belittling Di Beichen, a strong anger appeared in her eyes. She immediately took a step forward and said angrily, "So what if he has the dark attribute? Did he kill your father, your mother, or your entire family? Is there a need to do this?" Xiao Sou's expression turned ugly when she heard Ling Qianqian scolding. However, she did not sit back and wait for her death. Everyone knows about the darkness of the power of darkness. Do you need me to remind you? Back then, dark attribute cultivators caused great chaos in the upper realm. If it weren't for the Holy Light Assembly, who knows what kind of situation everyone would be in now. Oh, according to what you're saying, dark attribute cultivators only know how to do bad things? Why do I seem to remember that the only reason you were able to keep your life was because of Beichen? I say, why do you have no conscience at all? You were so obedient when you were begging Beichen for protection. Now you're jumping around. Don't you find it embarrassing? Lin Qianqian looked at Xiao Souo with a burning gaze that seemed to be able to see through her soul. Xiao Souo was stunned. Faced with Lin Qianqian's questions, she was speechless. Yes, look at her self-righteous look. She speaks as if people with the light attribute never do bad things. Lin Yi also sneered, "You know what kind of person you are. Don't think that you are so great just because you are lucky to awaken the light attribute. If you want to look down on others, wait until you really become the holy light saint." Chapter 5090. Xiao Sou's face darkened when she heard Lin Qianqian's words. Lin Qianqian's words had hit her where it hurt. She didn't care about anything else. The title of the Saintess of the Light had always belonged to her. Even though she knew that she could not become the real Saintess of the Light, she had never thought that the position of the Saintess of the Light would fall into someone else's hands. However, she only realized the danger when Bailey Hongzhuang appeared. Bailey Hongzhuang's various abilities and talents in the light attribute were not weaker than hers. In fact, she was even stronger than her. If the title of the Saintess of the Light were to fall into Bailey Hongzhuang's hands one day, it would be something that she would not be able to accept. He is of the dark attribute and is destined not to be accepted by others. Xiao Sou's gaze was cold as she turned to look at Bailey Hongzhuang. You will only affect your future by being with him. The Light Sacred Assembly will not accept you. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. So what? I don't care at all. Do you know that if the Light Sacred Assembly does not accept you, it will be very difficult for you to obtain a high-level light attribute cultivation method in the future? Xiao Shou raised her voice as she stared sharply at Bailey Hongzhuang. She did not believe that Bailey Hongzhuang could truly be unconcerned under such circumstances. However, Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows and smiled proudly. Her delicate and peerless face was filled with a confident brilliance. So what if it's difficult? So what if I don't cultivate the Light Sacred Assembly's cultivation method? Xiao Shou was stunned when she saw Bailey Hongzhuang's nonchalant look. She could tell that Bailey Hongzhuang was speaking from the bottom of her heart. That was the disdain that came from the bottom of her heart. It was as if she did not care about the Light Sacred Assembly at all. This was inconceivable to Lin Qianqian. If a cultivator wanted to cultivate attribute energy, they would have to obtain the cultivation method from the various large guilds. If they could not obtain the cultivation method, it would mean that they had no future. Lin Qianqian could not understand why Bailey Hongzhuang did not care. Compared to Xiao Shou's shock, Bailey Hongzhuang was very calm. Not to mention that the Light Sacred Assembly's cultivation method was not as accurate as hers. Even if the cultivation method was in the hands of the Light Sacred Assembly, she would choose Bewitching without hesitation. To her, there was no need to choose. Facing such a Bailey Hongzhuang, everyone couldn't help but look at Bewitching, and their hearts suddenly understood. As husband and wife were of one heart, they were of the same heart. Previously, when Bewitching protected Bailey Hongzhuang so much, they were very envious of Bailey Hongzhuang for being able to receive such love. But now, Bailey Hongzhuang's performance made them understand that her feelings for Bewitching were the same. For Bewitching, she had also sacrificed a lot. For a moment, many men looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with sighs. This kind of relationship was also what every man yearned for. If he was of the darkness attribute, how many women by his side would be as loyal to him as Bailey Hongzhuang? When Murong Jing heard this news, he could not help but be astonished. He really did not expect Bewitching to be of the darkness attribute. Bailey Hongzhuang's attitude also shocked him. Chapter 5091. Bailey Hongzhuang is too domineering. For Bewitching, she doesn't even care about her own future. Her singing is even better than Xiao Shou's. I think she has a high chance of winning the competition for the position of the Saint of Light. That's right. Didn't you notice how much Xiao Shou cares about Bailey Hongzhuang? Isn't it because she feels threatened? I think Bewitching is lucky to have found a woman like Bailey Hongzhuang. No wonder he dotes on her so much. If it were me, I would definitely do the same. When Murong Jing thought of this, the other cultivators naturally didn't overlook it. Bailey Hongzhuang's previous performance had already made everyone understand that she was more outstanding than Xiao Shou. Therefore, everyone guessed that Bailey Hongzhuang would be Xiao Shou's biggest enemy in becoming the Saint of Light. However, no one thought that Bailey Hongzhuang wouldn't care about the position of the Saint of Light so much. Once the Saint of Light had this identity, her influence would be different from the past. Her cultivation resources would also be greatly increased. Logically speaking, no one could ignore such benefits. If it was an ordinary woman, even if the other party was someone she deeply loved, she would probably hesitate. At this moment, the difference between Bailey Hongzhuang and Xiao Shou was immediately obvious. Lin Qianqian and the others were also touched after hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words. Bewitching turned his gaze and smiled at Bailey Hongzhuang. Deep in his eyes, there was a touch of emotion. He knew that to Bailey Hongzhuang, the identity of the Saint of Light wasn't important. However, he also understood that it was because of him. Di Xiaofeng patted Bewitching's shoulder. Bewitching, you really found a good wife. You have to treat Hongzhuang well in the future. If you bully her, even I won't agree. Xiaofeng, don't worry. Think about how Bewitching treats Hongzhuang. How could he treat Hongzhuang badly? Lin Qianqian smiled. Di Xiaofeng nodded slightly. That's true. Chu Yingming and Nangong Yuqing couldn't help but look deeply at Bailey Hongzhuang, but they didn't say anything. It had to be said that Bailey Hongzhuang's choice made them feel relieved. This was because once Bailey Hongzhuang became the saintess of the light, they would be in even more trouble. This problem did not exist now, but they also admired the relationship between Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen. Just as everyone was discussing animatedly, the Illumination Divine Tree's chanting suddenly underwent a change. Seeing this, a trace of doubt appeared in everyone's eyes. Why did the chanting of the Divine Tree change? It doesn't seem as peaceful as before. Lin Taxing frowned. The previous chanting that was as pleasant as the chirping of birds made people feel calm and fascinated, as if everything was so wonderful. However, the chanting now had a trace of noise, which made people feel uneasy. It was a completely different feeling from before. Hearing Lin Taxing's words, everyone felt the same. Although they didn't feel the specific change, the chanting clearly didn't make them feel as comfortable as before. At this moment, another voice sounded. Look, the look in the eyes of those demon beasts has changed. As soon as this was said, everyone immediately turned their heads to look at the demon beasts. They saw that the calm eyes of those demon beasts were gradually dyed with violence. It was as if they had returned to the time when they were treated as food, without the slightest bit of peace and friendliness. Chapter 5092. When Xiren's expression suddenly changed, revealing a pale and solemn expression. Although he still didn't understand why such an unforeseen event had occurred, he knew that it was definitely not a good thing. These devil beasts aren't going to attack us again, right? Di Xiaofeng's expression tightened, his starry eyes filled with nervousness and worry. One ought to know that they were currently in the vicinity of the Divine Tree, while the devil beasts were surrounding them, completely surrounding them. The moment these devil beasts attacked, they wouldn't even have a place to retreat. More importantly, with the Divine Tree's continuous chanting, more and more devil beasts were approaching them. However, before they could think about it carefully, the devil beasts had already pounced on them. Roar! The crazy roars were filled with bloodthirst and cruelty. All the devil beasts regarded the humans as their enemies and pounced on them without hesitation. In a split second, miserable shrieks resounded everywhere. Many cultivators couldn't dodge in time and were attacked by the devil beasts, causing them to fall. The cultivators who reacted quickly gathered together to block the attacks of the demonic beasts. However, during the process of fighting, they found that the devil beasts' attacks were much stronger than before. Previously, when they faced these devil beasts, it was already very difficult to resist. Now, with the eruption of the devil beasts' combat power, they were on the verge of collapse. What do we do now? We have no way of leaving this place. Shengguan Yingying's face was filled with anxiety. This sudden change was too unbearable for her to bear. I'm afraid it's the tree's problem. Due to the change in its chanting, the devil beast's situation has changed. Di Xiaofeng calmed down immediately. This sudden change was completely due to the Divine Tree's change. There's nothing we can do. We can't order the tree to change its chanting, Chu Yingming said in a heavy voice with a hint of anger. Damn it, these devil beasts are completely crazy. We can't stop them at all. Nangong Yuqing felt like he was going crazy. No one would be able to withstand such an unforeseen event. He only noticed that in this short period of time, several cultivators from his family had fallen. If this situation wasn't changed quickly, they would all die here. Di Beichen, activate the defensive formation quickly. We will hold on for a while, Qin Feng said hurriedly. This was the only thing they could rely on at the moment. Hearing that, Di Beichen immediately nodded. Without hesitation, he began to set up the defensive formation. When the other cultivators saw this scene, their eyes lit up with hope. Previously, it was Di Beichen's defensive array that kept them alive. If Di Beichen could set up another defensive array, they would still have hope. Look, this tree can actually absorb people's blood essence. Lin Yi's voice was trembling and frightened. She widened her eyes and looked at the green divine tree in front of her in disbelief. Just a moment ago, this tree was exuding an incomparably holy aura. But now it was so cruel and bloody. Hearing Lin Yi's words, everyone turned their eyes and saw a horrifying scene. Branches extended from the divine tree and swept up the cultivators' corpses on the ground, absorbing their blood essence and flesh to strengthen itself. Chapter 5093. Seeing this scene, everyone felt a chill in their hearts, and their hands and feet were cold. The divine tree that they admired so much before was actually so evil. How is this a divine tree? I think it's a tree of death. Jun Lingshuan couldn't help but curse. His handsome face was pale, and the horror on his face couldn't be concealed at all. Do you think this tree deliberately used the power of light to attract all of us here, and then let these beasts deal with us? A strange idea suddenly emerged in Qinfeng's mind. When he first thought of this idea, he felt that it was impossible. But now that he thought about it carefully, if all of this was true, then it was really terrifying. As soon as this remark came out, everyone was stunned at first. After thinking of the possibility, they all felt a chill down their spine. It's too scary. How can there be such an evil tree? Lin Yi only felt a chill in her body. She felt numb from the soles of her feet to her spine. The smell of blood spread in the air. In a short time, many cultivators had fallen. The casualty rate was extremely high. While fighting, everyone couldn't help but look at Bewitching. They only hoped that Bewitching's defensive array could be arranged as soon as possible. Otherwise, they really didn't know how long they could hold on. Fortunately, Bewitching's speed was also extremely fast. After casting it twice in a row, he had become extremely proficient in casting it again. Everyone only saw a flash of light, and an invisible barrier had surrounded them. Seeing this, everyone couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. At least they had a chance to breathe. However, the next scene made everyone's expression change. In their sight, with the fierce attacks of those beasts, the defensive array was constantly fluctuating. It could be broken at any time. The attack power of these beasts is too strong. The defensive array can't resist it, Bewitching said in a deep voice. Now, he also had some understanding of the power of his defensive array. It was extremely difficult to resist those beasts before. Now, the combat power of these beasts had increased by more than one level compared to before, so it seemed to be in danger. The chanting of this tree has the effect of increasing combat power, and it will make these beasts enter a violent state. I'm afraid it's not a long-term solution to stay in this defensive array. Xiao Sou's face was pale. As the Saint of Light, she could also determine the effect of this divine tree's chanting. This situation made her feel even more hopeless. With Xiao Sou's words, everyone finally understood. However, this was simply a nightmare. Then what should we do? We will all die here. Qiu Baixing couldn't help but feel anxious. If it was possible, he really wished that he didn't enter the immortal cloud's secret domain. In the past, even when he was training, he had never been in such danger. Don't be anxious. Everyone, think about it carefully. Only by calming down can we find a way to survive. Bailey Hongzhuang's red lips parted slightly, her fair and glossy face was calm. She knew that once everyone panicked, they would be finished. Hongzhuang is right. Let's think of a way first. Di Xiaofeng nodded. Who knows when the singing will change again? In my opinion, I'm afraid that's not very likely. This tree probably wants to absorb the essence blood, which is why it attracted all of us here. It's too difficult to leave this place alive. Chapter 5094. If we want to live, there's only one way out. Bewitching suddenly said. What way out? Cut down this tree. As soon as these words came out, everyone was stunned. They only felt their lips dry up and it became particularly difficult to speak. Cut down this tree? Everyone couldn't help but ask. Even if this tree had become so terrifying now, its previous holy appearance was still engraved in everyone's hearts. Cutting it down like this was something that no one could imagine. This tree isn't some light sacred tree at all. It's very bloodthirsty. Whether it's us or these monsters, we're all just food to it. If we don't destroy it, under its amplification, the monster's attack power will only become stronger and stronger. There's no possibility of us leaving here alive. So, we have to cut it down. Di Beichen's voice was resolute and decisive, leaving no room for doubt. Everyone looked at each other. Although they knew that Di Beichen's words were very reasonable, this decision was still somewhat difficult to accept. That's right, we have to cut down this tree. Bailey Hongzhuang was the first to agree. If we don't destroy this tree, even if we die here today, more cultivators will fall in its hands in the future. This tree is simply an evil thing. Bailey Hongzhuang's expression was calm. In her eyes, nothing was impossible. Just like how she could transmigrate, it had already proved that many things in this world that didn't exist were actually real. Even if everyone believed that this tree was a sacred tree, she believed that all of this was just a disguise. Bloodthirsty and cruel, that was its nature. Seeing that Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen were so sure, Di Xiaofeng and the others naturally didn't doubt it and nodded one after another. Since that's the case, then let's cut down this tree. No! Xiao Shou frowned. But the light energy that this tree has is also real. It can bring endless inspiration to people. What time is it that you're still thinking about this? Do you really want to die here? Lin Chanxian's eyes were filled with disgust. It's fine if you want to die, but don't drag others down with you. Xiao Shou's face paled. She couldn't help but look at Jun Lingxuan. With her strength alone, it was obvious that she could not change everyone's decision. However, Jun Lingxuan hesitated for a moment before saying, "No matter what, our lives are more important. Don't think too much about it. We have to stop this tree from chanting. Otherwise, the ferocious attacks of these demonic beasts are not something we can withstand." As he spoke, Chen Feng looked at Di Beichen and said, "Beichen, you'll be in charge. What should we do next?" Seeing how much Chen Feng trusted him, Di Beichen nodded. "All right then. We are already at the edge of the divine tree. Everyone is divided into two groups. One group will stay outside to fend off the demonic beasts, while the other group will follow me to chop down the tree." Di Beichen made a prompt decision and quickly made the arrangements. Under such circumstances, Chu Yingming and the others did not have any objections. They only cooperated with Di Beichen's arrangements. Xiao Shou was obviously unwilling to chop down the tree. However, no one was willing to listen to her opinion. Di Beichen even directly let her deal with the demonic beasts to avoid trouble. Chapter 5095. After making a decision, the next moment, Di Beichen led everyone to rush towards the giant tree that was chanting. However, the moment they walked out of the defensive formation, the giant tree's branches swept toward them without hesitation, carrying with them a cold, killing intent. The branches were as flexible as vines and carried a powerful force. The moment they touched the cultivators, they were immediately wrapped around and dragged toward the giant tree. Immediately, cries of alarm and screams rose and fell. One of the cultivators was directly wrapped up by the giant tree, and in the blink of an eye, he was turned into a dried corpse. Seeing this, everyone's heart trembled, and their killing intent intensified. They had to completely destroy such an evil thing. "Xiren, save me!" Shangguan Yingying's cry of alarm was heard. Everyone found that the vines were pulling Shangguan Yingying's feet and were pulling her backward. Xiren's eyes immediately turned blood red. He immediately pounced forward and stabbed the vines with the sharp sword in his hand. The vines were like human hands. Following Xiren's stab, blood started flowing out. Di Beichen and the rest did not hesitate. At the same time, they rushed forward and cut the vines without hesitation. Only when the vines were cut did the vines that were wrapped around Shangguan Yingying's feet loosen. Shangguan Yingying's face was pale. Obviously, she still had some lingering fear. She was so close to becoming a dried corpse. "I must cut this tree!" Shangguan Yingying roared. The lingering fear in her heart transformed into a thick flame of anger. What rotten tree! It actually wanted her life. She had to take this tree's life. Seeing that Shangguan Yingying was still angry, Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest understood that she was fine and were relieved. Chen Feng raised his voice and reminded everyone, "This tree's attack power is very strong. We must be careful." Facing this tree, the threat it posed was not any greater than facing those demonic beasts. After everyone realized how powerful this tree was, They had an understanding in their hearts. Their movement techniques were pushed to the limit as they approached the tree at the fastest speed possible. However, as the distance between them got closer and closer, the giant tree's attacks became fiercer and fiercer. If they were not careful, they would be swept away by the vines of the giant tree. Fortunately, everyone worked together. Once they saw a cultivator being attacked, they would rush to the rescue as quickly as possible. Even so, many cultivators still lost their lives instantly. This can't go on. It's too difficult to get close to the divine tree. Di Xiaofeng's face was ashen. They had already tried their best to get closer, but these vines were too annoying. Since we can't get close, let's cut off all these vines. Di Beichen's eyes were filled with determination and ruthlessness. That was the only way they could successfully get close. As soon as he said that, a trace of hesitation flashed in everyone's eyes. However, they quickly became determined. Since there was no other way, this was the only way. Who cares? Since I'm going to die regardless of whether I fight or not, I might as well fight with my life on the line. Who knows, I might even have a chance of survival. Lin Taxing's voice was resolute. He was ready to die at worst. However, even if he was going to die, he would drag this tree down with him. After hearing this, the eyes of those who were still hesitating flashed with a strong fighting spirit. Chapter 5096. In the face of death, everyone's fighting spirit was ignited. They were all well-known figures among cultivators. If the other party wanted to take their lives, it would not be an easy task. Immediately, everyone started to move. Bailey Hongzhuang held the silk cutter in her hand. Facing the sweeping vines, her body turned into a flash of lightning as the sharp blade in her hand pierced out mercilessly. Ding ding ding. The sound of metal resounded. Everyone was trying to cut the vines. The huge tree seemed to have sensed everyone's thoughts. Immediately, even more vines appeared, intending to strangle everyone. Countless vines were like the hands of a devil, covering the sky and covering the earth as they swept over. Everyone could only focus on blocking. If they were careless, their bodies would be bound by the vines and they would lose their ability to fight. As everyone stopped trying to get close to the tree, they shifted their focus to the vines. Soon, a lot of vines were cut off by everyone. The huge tree's chanting became more and more berserk. That sound caused everyone's ears to hurt. The devil beasts seemed to have entered a berserk state as their attacks became extremely terrifying. Come back quickly. We can't hold on here anymore. Chu Yingming shouted with a pale face. As all the devil beasts entered a berserk state, cracks started to appear on the defensive formation. It was obvious that it would break soon. Once the defensive formation disappeared, he had no doubt that they would become food for these devil beasts at the fastest speed possible. Hearing the sounds of collapse from behind, Bailey Hongzhuang's expression tightened. They can't hold on anymore. We have to go back and help. Di Beichen turned around. Indeed, the devil beast's attacks were densely packed. Their eyes were bloodshot, obviously not in a normal state. Let's go back first. We'll come back later. Chen Feng's eyes were filled with unwillingness. However, he still helplessly made the decision. Now, he was very sure that the problem was with this huge tree. As long as they could cut down this tree, at least the devil beast's attacks would not be so strong. Unfortunately, it was extremely difficult to cut down this huge tree in a short period of time. Currently, they were truly troubled by both internal and external troubles. They could not split themselves up. On one side was a giant tree that could not be taken down for a long time, and on the other side was a teammate who could collapse at any time. Everyone quickly made a decision and quickly returned to the team. However, they also understood that as long as they could temporarily block these demonic beasts, they had to come and cut down this tree. Otherwise, the rest would be endless trouble. After Di Beichen returned to the team, he immediately reinforced the defensive array. These demonic beasts are completely crazy. There's no way to stop them. Chu Yingming's complexion was extremely ugly. This situation made him feel that he was very close to death. We have to think of a way. Even if there's a defensive formation, it won't be long before it's completely destroyed under the attacks of these demon beasts, Nangong Yuqing said with an anxious expression, his voice unconsciously becoming sharp. But other than resisting, what else can we do? Di Xiaofeng frowned. Everyone, if you have any trump cards, don't hide them. Hurry up and use them. Everyone looked at each other in dismay. At this juncture of life and death, who would still be in the mood to hide their trump cards? However, the problem was that there was nothing they could do. Even if they had the strongest moves, facing these endless waves of demonic beasts, how much of an effect could they have? The next moment, Bailey Hongzhuang suddenly took out several porcelain bottles. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.